Sup gang, Sheets here with an Enhancement Shaman Stormbringer guide for Mythic Plus. Before we get into it, please subscribe to my channel and hop into my Discord to get all my weak aura, UI, and add-on info, and to ask general questions or just chat. First off, some basics. Enhancement Shaman uses a resource called Maelstrom to dish out damaging abilities. The entire enhanced rotation is built around building up Maelstrom and then spending it, so in theory there are two phases to the rotation. Phase 1, build, Phase 2, spend. These phases happen very quickly, so it is crucial to have something that tracks where your Maelstrom weapon stacks are at. I use this weak aura that makes it very obvious right in the middle of my screen. There are many others that are also viable. If you have one you prefer, feel free to add it to the pinned comment down below. You can also add any other weak aura you find helpful for Enhance. As a reminder, all of mine can be found in my Discord. Breaking down the rotation, we'll start with builders. In this order, these abilities generate Maelstrom, ranking from most to least. Stormstrike is our primary builder ability and should be used anytime it's off cooldown and you're below 8 to 10 Maelstrom. Crash Lightning and Lava Lash both generate on average the same Maelstrom, however Crash Lightning usually gives more since the Maelstrom generation is based on how many targets are hit, so other than bosses this will be the main builder over Lava Lash. It also applies a 12-second buff that causes your Storm Strike, Ice Strike, and Lava Lash to deal additional nature damage to all targets in front of you. It is crucial to have this buff up at all times during any fights that have 2 or more enemies. Lava Lash will be useful in single target when Storm Strike is on cooldown, however the main utility of Lava Lash is its ability to spread Flame Shock to 4 nearby enemies. You want to ensure Flame Shock is on as many enemies as possible during each pull to maximize DPS and get the most benefit from Primordial Wave. Flame Shock can be active on up to 6 targets at a time. The other builders to consider are Voltaic Blaze and Ice Strike or Sundering depending on which one you're running. Voltaic Blaze is a new ability as of 1105 that gives Tempest, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning an 18% chance to turn your next Flame Shock into Voltaic Blaze, which does about 10 times normal Flame Shock damage and applies Flame Shock to your target and 5 nearby enemies. This ability is nice, but not worth going out of your way to track when it's up, as you'll get more DPS and Maelstrom generation with the normal rotation. Just consider this a nice bonus at times when you send a Flame Shock. Ice Strike and Sundering also generate Maelstrom depending on which one you're running, but not a ton, so prioritize Storm Strike, Lava Lash, and Crash Lightning instead. For spenders, it's much simpler. In single target, you always prioritize Lightning Bolt. In encounters with 2 or more targets, prioritize Chain Lightning. In any situation, if Tempest is available, that's the priority. Unless it procs when you're at the end of a pack, in that case, save it to be used on your opener on the next pack. This sometimes leaves you in awkward situations where you actually want to Chain Lightning on a single target to spend Maelstrom but not send your Tempest. Trust me though, it's worth it if your timing is right. Outside of builders and spenders, there are the extra abilities that enhance your builders and spenders, no pun intended. First off is Primordial Wave. This deals damage and applies Flame Shock to your target and makes your next Lightning Bolt or Tempest also hit any target currently affected by Flame Shock and increases the damage by 175%. This is another ability that whenever possible you should be saving for when you have a Tempest available, as it will send Tempests to all Flame Shock targets causing massive damage. Next up is Feral Spirits. This will be an actual button if you're running Witch Doctor's Ancestry, but if you're running Flowing Spirits then it won't be. Feral Spirits sends 3 elemental wolves at your target that increase elemental damage done by 20%. When running Elemental Spirits, and you absolutely should be, you'll get an additional 20% damage from the elements your wolves are imbued with. Next is Doom Winds. This also saw some changes in 1105 that now make this viable in AoE. It now deals ticking damage to all enemies nearby every second for 8 seconds. It also increases your chance to activate Wind Fury weapon by 200%. This has a 1-minute cooldown, so first it should be used after you go into Ascendance, then once more while Ascendance is on cooldown. It also makes your Crash Lightning generate a boatload of Maelstrom, so lining those abilities up whenever possible is a great idea. Last but not least, Ascendance. This is our major cooldown that turns you into an Air Ascendant, immediately dealing AoE damage to all enemies within 8 yards. It also reduces the cooldown of Storm Strike by 60% and turns it into Wind Strike, which bypasses armor and has a 30-yard range. Thorim's Invocation makes Wind Strike automatically spend 5 Maelstrom whenever cast and will send either Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning depending on whichever one was most recently used. Now, a commonly asked question, how do I use Tempest during my Ascendance window? The short answer, manually send it whenever it's available and you're at 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks. The longer answer, in AoE, if your Tempest splash damage hits an additional target, your Wind Strike will automatically prime to Chain Lightning. If it only hits your primary target, then you'll be primed to Lightning Bolt. Now, because Wind Strike only uses 5 Maelstrom, you'll want to make sure you manually send your Tempests during Ascendance to use a full stack of 10 Maelstrom, causing more damage. However, if you're newer to Enhance and there's already too much to think about, which there absolutely is, just spam Wind Strike during Ascendance and you'll be fine. Now for some other abilities and passives that are worth talking about. Conductive Energy. This is part of the Stormbringer hero talent tree. This gets applied to any primary target hit by Tempest, Lightning Bolt, Elemental Blast, or Chain Lightning. Lightning Rod lasts for 6 seconds and causes that target to take 10% of all damage you deal with Tempest, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning. If you're very confident in your rotation and ability to track which targets have Lightning Rod, you can tap target enemies to apply it to as many as possible. This is very difficult to do, however, and won't add a massive amount to your overall DPS, so you mostly won't need to worry about it. Additionally, the Primordial Wave buff will apply Lightning Rods to all Flame Shock targets when when you send your Lightning Bolt or Tempest. Maelstrom spending. Try to only spend when you're at 8 to 10 Maelstrom weapon stacks. There are some scenarios where you are maybe running away from a boss to avoid a mechanic and your Ascendance is on cooldown, so to still do any damage at all, you can send whatever stacks you have. But in general, do your best to only spend at 8 to 10 stacks. Feral Lunge. I didn't start using this ability until recently and it's been a game changer. Anytime you need to run away to drop a pool or dodge an AoE, just slam your Feral Lunge to get back in the action quickly. Arc Discharge. Another Stormbringer hero talent. This makes Tempest cause your next Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning to be instant cast, deal an additional 40% damage, and be cast an additional time. This sounds like it should take priority, but similar to Voltaic Blaze, just do your normal rotation and consider this a nice bonus when you send a Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning that has this buff. It also comes in handy when you're in the previously mentioned scenario where you're running away from a boss and still want to do damage. Lastly, let's look at Witch Doctor's Ancestry versus Flowing Spirits. Flowing Spirits is another 1105 addition that replaces your Feral Spirit ability to now be passive. All damaging abilities have a chance to summon a Feral Spirit, too, with a 4-set tier bonus of that same element. When running Flowing Spirits, you'll be generating less Maelstrom due to the 4% buff from Witch Doctor's Ancestry, so you'll need to add Ice Strike as another builder option. I've linked both builds to the description for your convenience. From what I've gathered from others and my personal experience, there's a roughly 1% overall DPS difference between the two, so play whichever one feels better to you. Now let's talk about our pre-key routine. Before the start of any key, you want to make sure you can have a Tempest ready to go for your opener. To accomplish this, you first need a weak aura. See Discord for mine, it's part of the general Shaman pack, that tracks how much Maelstrom you've spent towards your Tempest. Since Tempest is procced for every 40 Maelstrom you spend, you want to make sure before the key that you've spent between 30 and 39. I usually just spend 30, as the remaining 10 you can also get in your pre-routine. Option 1 for spending is to just use the training dummies in Dornagal before going into your key. This is what I typically do, and all I'm doing is tracking how much I've spent using my weak aura and stopping once it hits 10, meaning I've spent 30 and only need 10 more to proc my Tempest. If you forget to do this, however, you have two options in or just outside the dungeon entrance. One is to use a training dummy toy. You have to be outside to drop these, so for Stonevault and Grim Batol, you'll need to run outside quickly to drop it. All the other dungeons in Season 1 are outdoors, so you can drop it right inside. Option 2 is to cast Ascendance and spam Healing Surges on yourself at 10 stacks. When doing this, you need to be slightly quick on the draw to spend as soon as you hit 10, otherwise you may not generate enough to spend a full 30. To help, you can also cast Feral Spirits if not running Flowing Spirits to ensure enough Maelstrom generation to spend your 30. Once that's done, you'll now want to make sure you have 10 Maelstrom by the time you start the dungeon. To do this, just send either Ascendance or Feral Spirits just before the key holder starts the key. This will ensure you have 10 Maelstrom ready to go for the first pack, which once spent will instantly proc a Tempest. So now that you're an Enhancement Shaman rotation expert, let's see it in some live examples. We'll start with an AoE opener. This is from the first pull in Mists of Tyrannus Scythe. You want to start by flame shocking a random enemy, then target your prio, in this case the villager, send Primordial Wave, Chain Lightning to proc your Tempest, then Wolves, Crash Lightning, Lava Lash to spread your flame shock, Storm Strike to get back to 10 Maelstrom stacks, then your Trinket, Pot, and Racial if applicable, and Ascendance. I have a nice little macro to do all of these at once in the description. Then send your Tempest, Doom Winds, then spam Wind Strikes with manual sends for Tempest at 10 stacks. Send Feral Spirits on cooldown during Ascendance window and just blast off. I also like to pop Ancestral Guidance at the beginning just to help out the healer. Next, a single target example. This is the second boss of Grim Batol. The rotation is almost exactly the same, except you don't need to send Crash Lightning or Lava Lash. In this example in particular, I didn't even bother manually sending my Tempests, and you can see the damage is still ridiculous. I also had PI and an AUG helping me, but still, massive DPS to quickly burn down a boss. And that just about covers it. You are now an Enhancement Shaman expert. I hope you found this helpful as you embark on your Enhancement Shaman journey, or if you're just looking to improve your already badass self. Remember to add any helpful weak auras to the pinned comment, and be sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.